This video is going to be about a clutch that we recently hatched from a double het monsoon ultramel bred to a ultramel pied female. And I guess kind of my thoughts a little bit on the testing for monsoon. As a smaller breeder, holdback decisions are vastly important, especially when it comes to an important gene like, say, monsoon, that can really help you push your collection forward. So I do have a few disclaimers with this. One, I do believe that monsoon is a recessive gene. I know there's a little bit of talk going around talking about, is it incomplete dominant, is it recessive, kind of what the situation is there. And I'm firmly on the side that I do believe that it is recessive. And at the end of the day, everything does kind of work the same as far as hets, visuals, incomplete dominance, supers. It's just a matter of your ability to identify that readily and, I guess, easily to an extent. Now, I will say some monsoon hets do have a very visual look, but that's some, not all. The same could be said for animals that are het for pied. Some of those animals have tracks, but not all. What it really comes down to is the reliability of being able to determine if that animal is het for that gene or not. And speaking a little bit about that, so we actually sent Charlie a good 10 or so sheds from het monsoon animals and normal animals, well, not het monsoon animals anyway, in what we called like a blind test. I sent those sheds to him, he got back to me, and he basically said, are these animals het and are these animals not het? And he was 100% correct. Now, I do mention that because I think it's important to say that I do believe in testing and I do believe that the testing is accurate. But as a smaller breeder, I would not want to sell an animal that's het for monsoon and then, heaven forbid, something crazy happens down the road. If you recall what the pairing was, we did a double het monsoon ultramel to an ultramel pied. So we produced animals from that pairing that are ultramels double het monsoon pied. There's an ultramel het monsoon on Morph Market right now for like $12K. Now, would it sell for that? I'm not sure. But if it's an ultramel double het monsoon pied, and we've been seeing a lot more monsoon pieds, and they're looking really, really nice. So I think the ultramel monsoon pied is going to look absolutely crazy. But if I were to sell one of those animals, especially something like, say, a male, and if something weird did happen, let's say it was part of that 1% that, was a false test, that would put me in a really, really bad situation several years down the road. So for those reasons, I am using the monsoon test for me as stuff that I'm going to be holding back. Now, as the price comes down for monsoon and monsoon hets and all that different kind of stuff, would I release animals that proved het monsoon via shed testing? Of course I would, because at that point I can cover it if something crazy does happen. I'm not in a position as, a lot of other people are either. Like, they probably wouldn't be in a position to get something like that straightened out. But you have people like Justin, Bob, Miguel. If something crazy happens with any of their animals, if it proves to be the wrong thing and that was the key gene for that thing, I'm sure they would make it right. And I would want to make it right too, but at that value that a ultramel double het monsoon pied would be, that's a big sell. So enough about all that. Let's take a look at these babies. Here we have baby number one, super clean, vibrant, and really interesting kind of striping brought on from the het pied. But this animal did not prove het monsoon, and I think that's just the pied markers kind of shining through. The second one here, also super clean, a little bit striped, and I think there is some OD going through the lineage, but this one proved not het for monsoon. Now, this animal does look distinctly different, a little bit darker, a little bit more contrast, and a very interesting head marking. So this animal did end up proving het monsoon, but it's not too far off from the other animals within the clutch. Now this animal looks very similar to the last, very dark base, very granity sides, and overall a very unique look. However, this animal did prove not het for Monsoon 2 different times. However, I am holding on to this girl because at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt if she just ends up being an ultra male het pied, but if she ends up being more, it's not going to hurt me much. This animal, again, very similar, deep dark base, very unique pattern, and really interesting granity sides. Now this one did prove het for Monsoon, but you can see this one compared to the last one, they look very similar, and one proved het and the other one did not. So pretty interesting. So here we're going to have the last 2, which both ended up not proving het for Monsoon. So we just have some very dark, very granity, double het ultra male pieds with somewhat of a unique pattern, but again, both of these did not prove het for Monsoon. Now these are of course just my opinion, and I'm curious kind of where you stand on animals that are high value, and if it's something that you would be selling, or if it's something that you would basically just be testing to determine holdbacks for yourself. As always, thanks for taking your time to watch this video, and we'll see you in the next one.